Rabbit and Steel is an MMO raiding themed roguelike, taking more than a generous inspiration from Final Fantasy XIV's rotations and mechanics. The long and short of it is, this game is awesome, and you should buy it. I'm not even baiting you to watch more to find out if you should or shouldn't get it. This game slaps. And if you have some friends to play it with, get it, and have plenty of chaotic fun. Me and my friends played 8 hours of the demo before this game came out. If you're unsure now, or even at the end of this review, get some friends and download the demo. You'll know within one run. So when the release was on the horizon, we knew we had to get it. So we sat our asses down, cracked a cold one, and got straight to solving mechanics and messing with each other for failing them.
Just use your eyes. Don't die. Just use your eyes. Kill the fucking boss.
44.
Alright, I was locked out of the game, okay?
Okay. No, I'm back. I'm so bad. I'm so bad.
I'm tapped out. Let me in. Let me in.
Get the fuck. Not even lock in, tab in, tab in.
As mentioned, Rabbit and Steel is a raiding roguelike for 1 to 4 players. Aside from trying the single player for the purposes of this review, we played with 2 to 4 players for the majority of it. Starting off by choosing your class, there are 10 available, all themed from MMO classics, but with a specific leaning to Final Fantasy XIV's. With only 5 available in the demo, it already felt very fresh, but with the 10 and their variable rotations, mechanics, and utilities, this is incredibly fleshed out. Each class has 4 abilities. Primary, which is the one you'll most likely be spamming, secondary, which is more conditional, a special, which depends entirely on the class how it's used, and a defensive. I cannot stress enough how important defensives and using them correctly is. And when I mean correctly, it's to mitigate damage when you fuck up a mechanic. I've been playing lots of Druid with my friends, as it's basically the easiest class, and I'd rather survive with consistent damage instead of floor tanking with burst damage. Druid's primary is a ranged projectile. Really simple, and you just want to spam it on cooldown. Their secondary is an AoE damaging ability that places a circle on the floor lasting for 6 seconds. Once again, simple. Just remember to recast once the area of effect is about to end, or when the boss moves to make sure they're still in the area. Their special ability is a butterfly turret, shooting automatically for the duration of the ability. You can have multiple on the field at any time, so make sure this is pressed every single time it ends cooldown. You want to keep your secondary and special up at all times, and spam your primary to keep your damage consistent. And finally, the defensive ability of a druid allows you to go invulnerable for a short amount of time, and gives you and any allies near you a speed buff for a little while. This is best used to help allies get into mechanics they might not be fast enough to move to, or to stop damage from either a failed mechanic or projectiles. This is mostly on around a 15-second cooldown, so whilst it might seem desirable to hold it till when you're low, that is just shooting yourself in the foot. Each hit you take takes away from one of your health points at the bottom. On normal, you'll have 5 health, and on lunar, you have 3. Whilst there are ways of healing that we'll get into later, use your defensives proactively to stop incoming damage when at full health, rather than waiting till you've lost some health. The goal is to kill all 5 area bosses, and then one final big boss at the end. Each area has 3 or 4 normal bosses, and then the area boss. You always start each run in a lobby area, where you choose your class, practice your rotation, and change what area and subsequently what bosses you'll start with. There are 4 difficulties, but difficulty also kinda scales with player count. In my opinion, mechanics can be easier to solve when playing with 2 players rather than with 4. The lower the player count, the more traditional mechanics are swapped with bullet hell dodging. As an example, playing solo. There are mechanics to solve in terms of positioning, but you're also doing that whilst having so many projectiles fired on screen. When in a group, you may need to teleport together to create a dynamic stack, meaning that projectiles won't hit inside your group zone. Whereas in solos, you'll be exclusively teleporting away from projectiles or into a static solo stack point. With you and your team ready to go, you'll enter the intro zone. 3 bosses that are basically a warm-up. The faster you kill each boss, the more money and XP rewards you get. Killing the first 3 bosses done fast can give you an extra boost of income or XP that helps to snowball and create momentum for the rest of a run. But in the same vein, don't take too long killing a boss. It's all great surviving sometimes instead of doing damage, but waste too much time and the boss will enrage, doing unavoidable damage to your entire party every 5 or so seconds. If the enemy isn't on its last few percent health, then a team wipe is probably inbound. A full team wipe, and the run is over. Back to the lobby to start again. Each boss in the area centers on 1 or 2 mechanics, evolving per boss till the final area boss. This warms you up and trains you for the mechanic combinations that come with the area boss. But it won't get too stale doing the same versions of the boss over and over again, because each one has 2 movesets. Both generally use the same mechanics, but completely different attack patterns and orders. Sometimes I'll get to a boss and go, if it's rotation A, it's easy. If it's rotation B, I'll actually have to focus as I'm still learning. This increases the already ample replay value and allows you to learn and adapt more. Just because you have A down doesn't mean you might not grief your team on B. In terms of what kind of mechanics you'll actually encounter, am I allowed to say all of them? Seriously. You've got basic stacks, splits, matches, and so many things that I can't describe verbally, or I don't know the official community names of them. Looking at the footage in the background would be the best way to see, but like in actual raiding, good positioning is key, bad positioning is death. Once during every area, you'll encounter a chest. Break it open, and 1, you get a heart back, and 2, you'll have multiple item choices. This is the roguelite part. Aside from your team arguing about who failed the mechanics, you'll also be arguing about who gets what item. Look, I love my teammates. They're really great people, but if any of them try and take my special boosting upgrades away from me, I am fighting them in a need and greed battle. Because if 2 people want the same item, the game will roll for it, letting fate decide. The items can vary from niche conditional buffs that might thrive on one class and suck on another, or could be risk versus reward. Do more damage until you get hit, do way more damage but with a far longer cooldown, or just simple stuff like status effect on hit, extra mobility or health. There's a surprising amount of versatile itemization going on here. But unfortunately, I've noticed that you can just get a bad roll of items, where none of them factor into your personal build. There's been a couple of times where I've almost wanted to skip taking an item, because whilst the effect might be okay, the penalty of, say, losing movement speed is far more impactful than the rest. At first, you won't have many sets to roll on, but you can track what sets and classes you'll unlock next on the pause menu. Some are rewarded by passing DPS thresholds, some are raw numbers of boss kills, one is even killing a boss where you get no rewards, which translates to just killing it when it's in Enrage. It's nice little milestones and arbitrary goals that create more diverse builds and choices over time. It's my understanding though that the sets are based off what ones the host has unlocked, so you probably want someone with the most playtime to be hosting for varied builds. So you pick your class, do the first few bosses, open a chest, and then you're onto your first of the 5 stages. Each stage opens with a trip to the shop to spend money earned from your initial bosses. The shopkeeper will always sell health restores and level ups. I should mention that each level is a 1% damage increase, so if you have gold left over, you're left with a choice of buying levels or saving the gold for the next shop around. What's different each time is the potions and ability modifiers. Potions can be more damage for specific abilities, more luck, which is just crit rate, healing a small bit after each fight, and more movement speed. These potions last until you've completed that area. Ability upgrades are the real deal though. Using my main druid class as a reference, one could make my turret special last longer, or make it shorter but more damage per shot. A defensive upgrade could be that it gives invulnerability to your teammates too instead of just yourself, or you could gain additional charges of usage, but with a longer cooldown or a way to regain charges, like doing damage. These are fixed rolls, but randomized each time based on the color of gem. So the list of effects or conditions is the same, but you might not get the one that you want that run. My personal favourite is getting the one that extends the duration of my turret, and combining it with the item that lowers my turret's cooldown whenever I cast my primary. So when it all comes together, I have 3 to 5 turrets on the field at any time, instead of just 1 or 2, and then I can focus on doing mechanics and turret upkeep. The synchronicity, or sometimes lack thereof between items and ability upgrades, is where gameplay and class identity blend together excellently. Sometimes the stars align and you become a damage machine, rocking the DPS charts at the end and putting your teammates to shame. Other times though, you cripple yourself, absolutely just fucking your build up. Like when I tried to make my standard attack do as much damage as possible, but with a longer cooldown, it did not work out well. You want your build to feel as smooth as possible so you can focus on doing mechanics. Make some changes that put off your flow, and now you're too busy trying to figure out why your cast speed is so weird. Then you fuck over your team because you didn't do your mechanic and got them hit for your mistake. As I previously mentioned, I suggested playing this game with friends. Whilst there is a browser feature to play with randoms, traditional MMO raiding has shown that not everyone is okay with wiping, or even just taking extra time to help new players learn mechanics.
Whelps! Left side! Even side! Many whelps! Now handle it! Fuck! That's a fucking 50 DKP minus! What the fuck was that shit?
So as long as your friends are chill, you'll have a great time. I personally played with 2 friends that are very experienced and prestiged WoW raiders, with their guild in the top 1% and themselves personally being in the top 0.1% PvPers. Whilst I've done my fair share of basic raiding in Final Fantasy, some harder ones in RuneScape, and a couple other MMOs, I'm not a progger. I am not good at it. I really enjoy the flow and the dance of a raid, but it might take me a bit longer to get some mechanics compared to other people. But so long as you and your friends are willing to focus up, try your best, and have some fun, this game will be a blast for you. Just remember, when required, to lock in.
Alright, we gotta log in now.
Okay,
Log
we're locked in. Alright, team. I felt like we were a bit locked out there. Okay, we are locked in here. I was not locked in. We got this. We're locking in. Locked in. Look how locked in he is.
You can only have so long of being perfectly locked in before you lock out.
I'm locked in. I'm taking the level up. Lock the fuck in. Hold it. Lock in. Lock in. Lock in.
It's okay, log in.
Locking in. Locking in. Locking in. Lock in. Only locking in.
Oh, okay, no, lock in.
Locking in. Locking in. Look, we lock in.
Stretch the hands, avoid RSI.
Fuck RSI. We lock in. I need you to lock in right now. No more Sleepy Joe. Only lock in. Lock in, lock in, lock in. We're locked out. I need you to lock in right now. Right here, right now. Sonny, I need you to lock in on this spot. We were so locked in. Oh. We were locked in.
I'll be transparent in admitting, we haven't beaten the game yet. We've played a good chunk on hard and a tiny bit on lunar, but even without beating it, I still happily recommend this game. We've had a blast so far, but there is one issue that is prevalent, and even with a team of varied yet decent MMO raiding knowledge, the visual clutter can really hurt this game, both for experienced and especially new players. Sometimes you'll do a fight and just go, what the fuck is going on? Because the mechanics are overloading your brain and you can't take in the new information. And other times, it's because the color scheming or visualization of the attacks are tied to the boss. Sometimes you're seeing red on red and don't know which one's gonna hit you first. Or two screen swipe mechanics that requires players to swap sides of the screen, but it's so hard to tell who has the swipe because the indicator is obfuscated. This isn't something I can give immediate fixes to myself, and this issue will get better. During our playthrough of the demo, some of the character ability visualization and enemy-specific mechanics visuals were harder to see than at launch, but the solo developer is very proactive in responding to criticism and fixing things people don't like. So whilst I do think this is a generally decent issue with the game at higher difficulties, it's nulled by the passion of the developer and the absolute raw, moment-to-moment fun you'll have with this game. I don't think this is a game you'll sweat one weekend and never play again. If you're like our group, we'll play a couple hours of it every other week, getting just that a little bit further, doing a little bit better, learning just a little bit more. That's the fun part. Beating a boss you as a group are stuck on feels great, and I can only assume getting that full run, all areas, and the final boss will feel fucking awesome. Personally, I'm really looking forward to playing more. Before I go, I'd like to leave you with a thought I've had. People get busy as we get older. Times change and people do too. Sometimes it's important to take a moment when with others, and metaphorically, smell the roses. It's rare to know that the last time you see or speak to someone, that it would have been the last time. I know that the giggles I get with friends on games we love are gonna be treasured memories, and I'm glad I've made some with this game. Thank you for watching.